First of all, describe what the past month has been for you.
It's been absolutely terrible, as it is for everyone. I mean, you see us in press conference. You haven't seen me as much in the media, but you see our families and the raw emotion that's out there, and the grief, the frustration. You know, we go through a range of emotions, from anger to frustration to grief. For me, it comes at different times during the day. 2 weeks ago, I knew exactly what to do. I'd go to the volunteer center at the Red Lion and open up the center and wait for the volunteers to come and work on things. And then I'd go out and put up flyers. I knew exactly what to do, and that was going to bring Laci home. And now I don't know exactly what to do, and that's so frustrating. That's the hardest part. I mean, we have a core group of volunteers still working to get her picture out there nationally through corporations and organizations, and obviously media and other means. So we continue to work tirelessly, many people do, to bring her home. And we can do that during the day, and unfortunately at night, don't know what to do, and the grief hits, and it's unbearable. But you also have to recognize that Laci is hurting worse than any of us. She's the one that's not with our family. She's the one that we need to find and bring home.
I know you have
So
moments.
that gives you focus. It gives you, there are times when you just can't continue, and if you're driving, you have to pull over and stop. And if you're doing something, you just can't continue. Try to stay busy and have a task, to know what to do, a positive task, and try to focus on that.
I know that there are certain areas you can't go to. It's hard to go to the park.
It's hard to go to, it's important though, because in the mornings when down there alone, I feel closer to her. Maybe that's a attempt to communicate or something, but yeah, definitely.
And you mentioned right off the start that you haven't been in the media.
No.
Why?
It was for the first 3 days or so when she disappeared. It was an absolute privacy issue, not showing the grief of our family, not exploiting that. After that, it was a conscious decision to remain out of the media eye, decided upon by everyone in the family and the volunteers, in order to, and I'm sorry to say it to media, but to keep the media here, to keep them hungry for, an interview with me or a picture, so that they would keep coming back, so this story won't fall through the cracks as it has happened with other missing people, with other abductions. And it's up to the family to keep that going. So we made that conscious decision together that I wouldn't speak. Obviously, we did lots of media with the rest of the family. And to keep them here, I didn't. But unfortunately now, the suspicions of me have grown so great due to people, wondering what happened to the, inappropriate relationship that I had with Amber Fry, that it's necessary to speak. It's appropriate time to, in order to ask people to keep looking for Laci, because they're not looking for Laci as much as they should be right now.
Let's talk about some of those suspicions, because there are a lot of suspicions out there. I think people want to know, first of all, why would you leave Laci, who was 8.5 months pregnant, alone to go fishing on Christmas Eve?
Okay. Our day was planned for, Christmas Eve dinner at our mom's house. Preparations were all made, gifts done. Laci was simply going to be baking that day. And it's not uncommon for us to, simply, we have separate pursuits. She does not, play golf as I do, which was my other option for that day. And being, 7.5 months pregnant, she's not going to want to go out in a boat. But it's simply a leisure activity to pursue that day. And, it was what our plans were. It may not be everyone's choice to do things like that, but it's the way that our relationship works.
I know when I approached you on Amber Fry, and I told you that I would be reporting that you had a girlfriend,
Right.
your response to me is that you had no comment either way. why didn't you just come clean then?
Well, I'm glad you asked the question. It simply, wasn't appropriate to comment on it. And unfortunately, there has been a statement in the press that I denied it, which was made with another reporter when I characterized a National Enquirer article as a pack of lies. And I did so without reading the article, unfortunately. The article I thought to include, I know also included a supposed life insurance policy, supposed blood evidence, and I forget what else, but also included the report of Amber. So I called it a pack of lies, not knowing that she was in there. So it's just not important to comment about that. I'm glad that Amber came forward. You want me to turn that off?
Yeah, what is that?
That's my phone, unfortunately. I thought it was off. And I'll just answer that question again. Somewhere here.
It sound like a phone.
Yeah, it's kind of going crazy, isn't it? Ah. Okay. Yeah, so if you just want to ask your question again, I'll just...
Okay, so once again, if you can just talk about why didn't you just come forward at the time when I asked you if you had a girlfriend? Why didn't you just come clean then?
Right. At that time, it wasn't appropriate to comment about because it's not relevant. And I'm glad you asked it because there were reports that I denied it. When I characterized a National Enquirer article as a pack of lies that included, unknowing to me, I knew that the article included this supposed life insurance policy bought this summer, supposed blood evidence, and other strange reports like taking the floors out of our home. And I didn't know it included, this relationship that I had. So I characterized that as a pack of lies, and that's come out as a denial, which it was never intended to be. I simply approached that issue as it's not relevant, and there's no reason to comment about it. There's a reason to comment about the number. Now, I'm glad that Amber did the press conference. I'm glad that she came forward because it allows us, and allows lots of people, I believe, to start looking for Laci again because it's slacked off because of that, because there's suspicion about me.
She claims you deceived her. She claims
Amber?
that, yeah.
Yes, she
claims
did
that
not
you-
know. She did not know that I was married. That is correct. And, so I'm glad she came forward. I informed her that I am married, and of Laci's disappearance shortly after, Christmas Eve. It was a couple of days after Christmas Eve. I don't know the exact date. I'm glad she did the press conference. I'm glad that's out there. It had nothing to do with Laci's disappearance.
Your stomach must have been turning, though, when you see her go on television, and it's national. And here's this girl saying, he lied to me. He told me he was single.
Sure.
I mean, your stomach must have been turning.
You know what? It is a positive to allow us to go on to search for Laci. That's how I view it, and that's how I felt about it.
The Rocha family
I said, good,
says,
this will be done, and we can keep looking for Laci.
Now, you know Laci's family says they can no longer trust you.
That
What are
was
your thoughts on that?
unfair and inappropriate for me to have that relationship.
How do you feel,
And-
though, that, the Rocha family says they can't
They're
trust you?
they're wonderful people, the Rocha family. I know that we all have love between us, and I know that we'll all keep searching for Laci. And I told Laci about the relationship. She knew about it, and it's important between us. And we'll continue to search for her. We'll bring her home.
That's
all
another
I know
problem
to
people
say.
had a big issue with. A lot of Laci's family talked to me and friends saying, if Laci knew that you were having an affair, she would have said something to someone. She wouldn't have kept quiet about it.
I don't know if she mentioned it to anyone or not. I did see a report in the news, an interview with a friend of ours, Laci, that indicated that she did not believe that I had told Laci. Laci also said, I know Scott, and he had nothing to do with her disappearance. And that statement to me is what's relevant. Because you could, question my morals and my poor decision making. That's fine, but don't stop looking for Laci. She's out there somewhere. She shouldn't be. She should be with our family.
You mentioned.
So let's keep working to bring her
I
home.
know that you mentioned during the network interview that only you and Laci know your marriage.
That's correct.
Explain that.
Just as anyone's intimate relationships, it's it's between those two people. And yes, you share things with people, and some things you don't share with people.
Now, did Laci find out about the affair, or did you just come out and tell her?
No, I informed her about it.
You
I don't
just-
believe she knew.
Why come out? I mean, what made you say, I'm going to tell her today? What made that day the day to tell her?
Just because it was the right thing to do. And as you know, when you're not doing the right thing, it just, eats you up. You feel, sick to your stomach, and you can't function, and you have a hard time, looking at someone.
Right. You mentioned it was the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
But from my understanding is that after you told Laci, you continued to see Amber. Was that also the right
I saw
thing to
her,
do?
yeah. No, it was not.
Explain that.
That is the explanation. It was not the right thing to do.
But you continued to do it.
Right, and it was not the right thing to do.
And then even after Laci went missing, you continued to romance this girl?
No.
She claims that you called her on the 24th and told her that
I informed Amber about Laci's disappearance and the fact that I was married.
on the 24th. December
No,
24th.
not on the 24th. I believe it was probably it was a few days after.
She says that you called her on the 24th, December 24th, and told her you were with your parents in Maine. Is that
Okay.
true?
I called her and informed her about Laci's disappearance.
On the 24th of December.
No, I did not. It was a few days after that I called her and told her I was married.
Okay. But
No.
she claims, let me just finish. She just claims that you called her on the 24th, told her that you were going to Maine, you were visiting your family in Maine, and then you were going to Brussels. Is that
Gloria,
true?
I'm not going to waste what little media time we have, and in this forum, with, this is a short newscast, and I don't know how much of these words you're going to use or not, but I'm not going to waste that by defending myself or talking about irrelevant things. It's better served if we talk about what happened and where's Laci.
Okay.
So the facts are that we know that on Christmas Eve, I left the house here around 9:30. She was here in the home. Okay, that's a fact that has to get out there because it's been reported erroneously that I saw her leave the house. Okay, she was in the house. That's one thing we know. Second thing we know is that the dog was returned to our yard with its leash on at 10:30 by a neighbor. And those are the two things we know about her disappearance. And hopefully those can help some people. There are things that we need to get out there are the tip lines, which is the Modesto Police Tip Line, 209-342-6166, and also 1-866-LACI-INFO, L-A-C-I info. And that's a tip line for people who have talked to the police. Even if they talked to them, please call that tip line if you saw her that day, if you've seen her since, or if there's something you think is important in the neighborhood. We want to be very specific.
Okay.
The other big push that we need is LaciPeterson.com. People can go there and print off the flyers and distribute those into every medical center, bus stop, high traffic area in the nation, because it could be the next flyer that brings her home to our family.
And I know more than I know that you want to find Laci, and the second thing you want to do is clear yourself from suspicion, correct? I mean, that is, you want the focus back on Laci and not on you.
I want people looking for Laci, because they're not doing that right now. And that's why I'm sitting down with you, in hopes that people will go, you know what? If I think he had some involvement, if I don't think he had some involvement, that doesn't matter, because Laci is what matters, and she's out there missing, and she needs to be home with her families. So I don't care to defend myself. I don't care what people think of me. As I've said, question my moral character if you want to, but look at your heart, think of Laci, her picture, baby, and make the effort to bring her home. And that's a simple reality. That's a simple thing we need to do. Just, think whatever you want of me. As long as you're out there and you're comfortable with yourself, that you're doing what you need to be doing to find Laci and bring her home.
I know that law enforcement officials have told me that you won't take a lie detector test, that you've wavered back and forth on that. Why?
Well, let me say this about the investigation. I gave you 2 times earlier, 9:30 and 10:30 when the dog was returned here. Investigators on both sides, law enforcement and private, have asked me not to comment any more about times, about conversations I had with the police, about the possible polygraph, tests if I've taken or not, and other, things surrounding the investigation so that it can be clear. So I'm simply not going to comment
On why you're
about
not going
those
to take
things.
it?
I'm not going to comment if I have or have not taken a polygraph with the police.
The life insurance policy. Why take one out on Laci? $250,000?
We have life insurance policies in place that were established when we bought this home that you're in right now 2 years ago. There was no life insurance policy taken out recently, as has been reported in the National Enquirer, the dubious source of alien information as well.
I know that a neighbor saw you removing things on the 24th. You mentioned this morning that it was umbrellas.
Yeah, we have some large umbrellas for the backyard pool area. Market umbrellas, I think is the term for them.
Why would you store those in the winter?
It started to rain, so I was going to store them. Just like you asked, why would I store them? I was taking them from the pool to store.
Okay. Officials of mine have told me, sources have mentioned to me, that there were cement bags that were in the storage area, and apparently a few of them were empty.
Sure.
Explain that.
Well, I could take you out in the backyard and show you all the cement work and brickwork that we've done to this home, and you'd find, cement bags around here.
So this was something that, it was home remodeling, or what were you doing with the cement?
Yeah. And again, we're starting to go into areas that investigators have asked me not to comment about, so we should probably, simply put the brakes on at that point.
Okay.
I don't mind commenting about the life insurance policy, but I don't want to give specific times or other information that could jeopardize what they find is valuable information in finding Laci.
Okay. I know that you mentioned on Good Morning America that it wouldn't surprise you if they found blood
Sure.
in your vehicles. Explain why.
Well, take a look at my hand. You can see, cuts here on my knuckles, numerous scars. I work on farms. I work with machinery. I know I cut my knuckle that day.
On what day?
On Christmas Eve.
Doing what?
Reaching in the toolbox of my truck and then into the pocket on the door. I cut open my knuckle and there's a blood stain on the door, on the driver's side door.
Sources of mine have mentioned that you also, when you came home on the 24th, did some laundry. You washed your clothes. Do you understand why that may look a little suspicious to the average person? Why would he come home and do his laundry?
Well, the average guy that goes out in the ocean fishing gets some salt water on him and comes home wet.
And so
What are you going to do with your wet saltwater clothes?
Yeah. So you
Anyways,
just decided,
but now again, I probably shouldn't even mention that because what they've asked me not to. So we should, we'll have to stop with that line of questioning.
One other thing to you, and that was, I talked to Mr. Rocha yesterday, Dennis Rocha.
Oh, great, good.
And he didn't have too many positive things to say.
Correct.
One of the things he said, and I'm quoting here, as far as you're concerned, it's lie after lie with Scott. Does the guy ever tell the truth? Your
That's
reaction?
unfortunate that that's his thought of me.
Do you understand why he feels that way, though? As far as the girlfriend is concerned, and
Well, certainly, it was an inappropriate thing, and I never lied to Dennis. I have never lied to Dennis. I think I saw him last Laci's disappearance, and prior to that, it was a year before that Laci and I never saw him. That's her father, Dennis.
right. And I have to ask you,
Sure.
are you in any way connected to Laci's disappearance?
I had nothing to do with Laci's disappearance.
What
And
was-
again, even if people out there question that, if they would just look at their hearts and make the effort to bring her home to her family. I don't care what you think of me.
Because someone out
But
there
know, yeah, someone out there knows. And you can be the key to finding them by putting out that, next
You're
flyer.
looking at the camera.
Well, it's a plea to the audience.
ahead.
That's why we're doing this.
Go ahead. I mean, if you want to make a statement to anybody who out
Well,
there.
that is, look in your hearts and know that you've done what you can to bring Laci home. And if you haven't, please do it. And that's going to LaciPeterson.com and printing out that flyer and putting it in every medical building, on your car, in bus stations, or use the tip lines if you have any information. That's what's going to bring her home. And think what you want of me, but you know in your hearts you should be helping Laci.
I know that.
That's really all I think I have to say.
Okay, I just want to ask
Thanks,
you
Gloria.
one last thing, if that's okay, about Laci, because I know that you get really choked up when you talk about it. Tell me what you love about Laci.
God, I think you can sum it up pretty easily with looking at her photograph. The photograph, her big smile in the press.
Because you guys met in college, or?
Yeah.
And tell me what connected you two right away. I know she's got a beautiful smile, but what linked you guys?
I don't know, just being able to complete each other. I think that's it. But, you asked how, well, and all you have to do is look at that picture, and you know that she's a bright one, a bright light in a lot of people's lives. So.
You think she's still alive?
She is.
You're sure that?
Yes. Laci's still alive. She's out there and someone's holding her, and these are critical days that we have left until the due date of February 16th. And we just need all of your help.
You haven't said anything about your baby.
That's entirely too difficult to speak about.
Do you go into the baby's room?
No, that door's closed.
How long will it remain closed?
Until there's a little guy in there. Thank you.